Welcome, everybody. It's Rock Talk with the Doc Rocker. I'm Jeff Bonomo. I am with the Doc Rocker, of course. And right now, we are going to do our homework album reviews, which is turning into like a first reaction because usually we listen to these albums that we give each other like the day of. I know I did it last night. I listened to this last night for the first time because it's been a really, really, really busy week. But I got into it, and the album he gave me was Steve Vai, The Ultrazone, and I listened to it last night, and I listened to it again today, so you know kind of where I'm going with this already. What did I give you?
I got Helloween Chameleon.
And I gave it to you without a backstory, too. There's no backstory, I just gave it to you.
As you know, I purposefully go in completely blind. I don't look anything up. I do no research about the band or the history or the reception of the album, none of that stuff. I just go in and just play each track, take a note of what's the name of the track, what do I think of it. And funny enough, both Jeff and I gave each other these assignments like last week. And I purposely waited. I was like, I'm going to like listen to so much other stuff and I'm just going to avoid it until Friday. And I'm going to listen to it the day of. That way I can come in on here for the podcast and I can just give like the real, like raw first impression of here's what I thought and here's what I liked and didn't. So what do you want to start with? Do you want to start with me?
Well, let's start with the good news first. I got a feeling we'll start with me. Okay?
Okay. You might be surprised.
This is Steve Vai. I kind of hope you... Well, I'll get to you later. This is Steve Vai first. Steve Vai, The Ultrazone. What can I say about another Steve Vai album? I never heard this one. I never heard anything off of this one, which is surprising.
Pretty recently when I was.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't.
For me,
I've heard at least a couple tracks off of pretty much everything, but this one must have just slipped by. But okay,
which is
The Ultrazone, 1999 it came out. The first half of this album is mainly instrumentals with like vocal stuff here and there. And the second half of the album is more like songs with vocals in them, basically. That's just how I could describe it. There's also two tributes on this album. There's a tribute to Frank Zappa called Frank, and there's a tribute to Stevie Ray Vaughan called Jaboom. It's a highly diverse.
I actually never knew that those were written as tributes. I never knew that. I knew the track.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, come on. The name of the track's Frank.
Yeah, and that one just reeks of Zappa. It's got mad Zappa.
It does. But I actually thought the Stevie Ray Vaughan track was better.
I love Jaboom. It was one of my favorite Stevie tracks.
There was like Frank was a very cool ode to Frank, and it feels like Frank, kind of like when Frank Zappa's in his like mellow mood. That's how it felt. Kind of like I can't remember the one. There's an actual Frank Zappa song that it reminds me of, and I wanted to look it up, and I can't remember. I didn't remember to look it up. So
that's okay.
Yeah, I mean Frank Zappa has like how many albums and stuff. So
yeah,
but there's one song it reminds me of, and I really wish I knew Steve Vai because I would call up and say, what was that song? What were you pulling out of out of that song?
Because he would probably tell you exactly what you're thinking of, and then it would clear up.
Yeah. It just feels like this one song. Jaboom is even cooler though. That's an even cooler ode to Stevie Ray. This one has a good like Stevie Ray Vaughan mix, like with Steve Vai on top of him. It was like it felt like Stevie Ray sometimes, but then Steve Vai comes in and does his Steve Vai-ishness. It's a really diverse album. It really is. It's the cool thing about this is it's not a bunch of like just crazy guitar leads. A lot of
like real kind of like carefully thought out, like some more mellow.
Yeah. Oh, and Steve Vai. I mean, I'm gonna just. I could just end it and say
he's the greatest guitar player. I'm sorry, he
really is. Because I listen to some of these other guitar virtuoso albums, and like I've told you before, usually like instrumental stuff bores me after a while because how long can I hear you noodle on the guitar?
Right.
But with Steve Vai, it's just okay. I'll go back to the opening song, "Blood and Tears."
Oh, I love it.
Really, really nice groove to it, and like Steve has this like godlike guitar tone. Like it's so like I don't know how to describe it. It's real smooth and like I don't know, man. Then there's like this really interesting like Eastern inspired vocals, like here and there with the spoken word.
Otherworldly nature of his melody on that is just so
it is so nice. It is.
It drives the whole time. That's one of my favorite Steve Vai songs. I love.
It's great. Oh, it's a great start for this album, man. And it doesn't like it doesn't stop, man. It's a really great progressive rock album. Amazing flow. Like the flow just goes from one song to the next. You know, sometimes it even gives me like a Steve Morse like Yes vibe going on there in some of these things.
Yeah, a little bit here and there, I would say.
Yeah,
it definitely it passes the time really easily, I would say.
Yeah. Let's see. Windows to the Soul gave me some kind of for some reason it gave me kind of a Jimi Hendrix kind of vibe in parts of it.
Yeah,
Silent Within,
totally explainable.
Silent Within, it's like this nice spacey proggy kind of jam. I really like the vocals on that one.
Yeah, me too. I think that's Steve. I think he sings that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like the voice. The voice
don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. Let me know if it's somebody else. If someone knows who, let us know. Put it in the comments. But I'm pretty sure that's Steve himself. I know he sings.
Okay.
And I think I could recognize his voice. I'm pretty sure it's him. But
it was really cool. Like I said, it has like a spacey proggy, almost like almost like a Pink Floyd vibe to it at some point. So really neat. Where am I here? Okay, I'll Be Around is a cool power ballad, you know. Like usually like it's a power ballad, you know, it starts off kind of slow and then it's gonna kick up. But with Steve Vai in it, it's like it makes it like it elevates that song. Like that song, anybody else would probably just kind of be like, meh. But this one, you know, because Steve Vai just comes flying in, you know, with his Steve Vai-ness again, and it makes it all better.
Steve Vai-ishness. I love that term. That is amazing.
It's great. Lucky Charms, like, great. That song is great, period. Like, that's all I have to say about that.
Lucky Charms is probably my favorite. That is like, you know, what is Steve Vai? Why do you like him? Listen to Lucky Charms.
Yeah.
That gives you like
because there's so much to it.
It's proggy, virtuosic, but like attachable melody that you could get stuck in your head, and it's just weird. It's wacky. It's goofy. It's fantastic. You can literally see like the psychedelic hallucination of like some kind of like bus made out of Lucky Charms floating through the sky, and like, you know, the little mascot leprechaun guy is like throwing candy out of it or something, you know. It's just raining ice cream droplets. It's like, well, what is this? All right, this is just Steve Vai making amazing imagery with his guitar playing. It's awesome.
It's excellent. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's how I feel about that song. Like everything you said was pretty much spot on. It's a weird and wonderful album. And if anyone hasn't heard it and just likes guitar music, you got to hear it. You got to listen to it. It's fantastic.
There's definitely, even if you don't like some of the weirder kind of stuff, I know like not everyone's a big Steve.
Like, it was the weirdest track. Ooh.
Yeah, I like that track. I like
goofy
stuff, though. I like the goofy weird stuff. Yeah. But even if you don't like that, there's something on this album that you will like. I could guarantee it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You got to just give it a shot, though, because, you know, like, ooh may set some people off. They may be like, this is too goofy. But to me, it's goofy awesome. Like, I like that. Like, it's so weird, but it's great.
I'm glad you like it.
I think it's great because it's so weird.
For me with Steve Vai, like 50%, it's 50-50. You know, people I show, like, because I get super excited about it. He's my favorite musician, so I'll show anyone Steve Vai, and it's a 50-50 split of like, oh my god, this guy is awesome, this guy is amazing, oh my god, how did you find him? And then like, oh, what the hell is this? You know, like, I get he's not for everyone. He's kind of an acquired taste, but like when you really get into him, and like, I don't know, for me, like, it's just a whole sonic world of sound that is just
I'll say this as far as like the Guitar Hero people, the guitar gods, you know, like Steve Vai, Satriani's like the only one I could think of that comes close, and I prefer Steve Vai.
Satriani was his teacher.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go. That's probably one.
There's a lot of parallels there you could draw with those two.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
you know, this album, it had like I said, a lot of like prog rock vibes, like, you know, Yes, maybe even a little like King Crimson here and there, some old Genesis a little bit here, but all with the Steve Vai. Yeah, you know, old school prog here and there. Yeah, and a lot of Zappa. I mean, a lot of Frank. You know,
and that's to be expected, given that you played with him in his earlier years.
And again, I'll say it's like every time you give me a Steve Vai album, it's Steve Vai. I mean. Yeah, it's not gonna be bad.
Well,
it may be a little bit hard to make.
The next
Yeah.
Steve Vai assignment I have planned for you, I'm going to give you a break from him this week. I'm going to give you something different. But then when we come back to him in a couple weeks, the one I'm going to give you next is my personal favorite Steve Vai album.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's not Sex and Religion, is it?
No, that's actually my least favorite. I don't like that one compared to his other stuff. But
Isn't it? That's the one he did with Devin Townsend, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, he released it under the name Vi, and it was with Devin Townsend. Yeah. When that first came out, it took me a little bit to get used to Devin, but now I love Devin. I think Devin's a brilliant musician. But okay, so we won't go off on a tangent talking about Devin Townsend. That's for another
future date. But
yes, but I'll give it as far as music goes. I'll give that 8.5. I'll give it. Cool. As far as Steve Vai albums go, I'll give it a 9.
All right, solid.
Modern Primitive, I like better, actually.
That's interesting. That's very interesting to me because I think Modern Primitive goes a little more off the deep end than Ultrazone does.
It does. Oh, it definitely does. But
okay, well there you go. If you like maybe you won't like my favorite album as much as I do then because it's not. It's once again it's Steve Vai. It'll deliver. Exactly.
Yeah, I even if I heard it, I'll give you a review of it anyway because I probably did.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a Steve Vai album I haven't heard now. I'd have to look at his discography. Let's see. Passion and Warfare, I've heard. Fire Garden, Modern Primitive. Yeah. I pretty much. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're all good. I'll listen to them again. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. What about the Real Illusions stuff? There's 2 Real Illusions albums that are out. Those are later. I think the first one was like 2005, 2006. It's called Reflections.
Yeah, Reflections. There's another one?
Yeah, there's one. I think it came out 2012 called The Story of Light.
And you gave it to me. Right? Yeah, we did that one. Oh, we did that.
I don't remember doing that one.
Yeah, wow. That was good too. That was really good.
Yeah, and as far as I know, I think that's part 2 out of what's supposed to be a 3-part.
Right.
Thing. That's
right. Yes, we talked about
it at some point. Yeah. Okay.
I'm the older one. I'm supposed to forget things.
I forgot that we even talked about that. It had to have been a long.
Yeah, because it had John the Revelator on it.
Yeah, and that song's a banger. That one's awesome. Yeah. Really, really great.
Dreamsicle Sunset, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So there you go. I love this album. Like I said, I didn't like it as much as Modern Primitive, but it's still Steve Vai album, so it's still up there. I mean, it's probably one of the best Guitar God albums there is because it's Steve Vai.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. So let's move on to. I gave you what a lot of people call the first non-power metal album by a power metal band. I gave you Helloween Chameleon, which was also the last album that Michael Kiske, vocalist for Helloween, did before he was booted. And you could probably understand the writing was probably on the wall when this album came out. Before you give your review, I'll just tell you this. This is my favorite album by Helloween. It's one of my favorite albums of all time, actually.
That blows my mind and surprises me to my core. Why? Why is this one your favorite?
I don't know. I think it's because every song on this album is different. And it's like almost like a different style. This album should not have been a Helloween album. It should have been something else because a lot of it goes completely against what Helloween normally is to a lot of people, like a power metal band. There's not a lot of power metal on this album.
I would argue that there's no power metal on this album at all.
There's not a lot of metal on this album, actually.
No, there's not a lot of metal at all.
Let's hear what you have to say.
The ones that I liked a lot were the ones that were the closest thing to metal. Again, you could probably predict my reactions. I wasn't crazy for the album. I didn't love it. There are some moments on this album that I absolutely did love and I adored. And just like I did with previous album reviews, I'm going to try to go track by track since this is mostly still fresh. I just listened to it today. So again, I went in totally blind, did not know what to expect. But I guess I could give a little bit of background on it now. I just pulled it up so I could look at the track listing, and I found a wiki page that at least talks on the surface level about what happened with this. So tensions between the band and management. An album that is highly eclectic in terms of musical aesthetics, to the point that it's been rejected by the band's core audience as not being a Helloween album, which is funny. You just said that. Like, it sounds like it's not even Helloween. And it's definitely not what I expected. But I didn't know what to expect with an album by the name of Chameleon, and by an album that you told me already is like, this is different than a lot of Helloween stuff. So you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I don't know. There's a quote here of it being referred to as a nutty amalgamation of Yngwie Malmsteen-ish, weirdly refined classical meter crossover, bluesy, stadium rock, Brit pop, synth heavy, prog rock, folk, big band swing, some straight up pre-Trans-Siberian Orchestra, metal, sprawl, and if you can believe it, more. And I don't agree with that. I don't think it had that many dimensions to it.
Okay, no, it's not that much, but yeah.
But it's definitely different. And like, as I got about halfway through the album, I was thinking, like, are they literally trying to be musical chameleons? Or was that like the aim of it? Are they trying to like purposefully make each song like a different style? Kind of similar to the album review we had from last week, where like, okay, like each song like just kind of kept me guessing, and I didn't really know what to expect. And in the case of last week's album, it delighted and surprised me, and it gave me a really enjoyable ride. And I really it's one of like, I want to go back and revisit that. At first I was like, I don't know what to make of this, but once I got to the end of that album, Sabotage,
Edge of Thorns,
right. And I was like, yeah, this was really interesting, and like it was eclectic in a way that like at the end of the journey musically it made sense to me. Like, I like music that keeps me guessing. I like music that changes a lot. I like music that doesn't stay in the same place. But at the same time, there's a little bit of a duality in me of sometimes I like music that is really one-dimensional and like just knows what it is and stays there. I would argue that Dio is like that to an extent in a lot of his solo stuff. It's like, you know exactly what to expect, like hard rock, fast, heavy metal riffs, great guitar playing, Dio singing, fantasy lyrics, and, you know, like, every to the point like, well, I've listened to Dio enough that all his albums for me just kind of bleed together, and it's like I know exactly what this is, and it's like it's a guilty pleasure for me. I listen to it because I like it and I know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
As much
AC/DC is the same way.
Yeah, so, and like much like Aerosmith is like a band that people love for that reason of like, you know exactly what you're gonna get. And the moments in Helloween's Chameleon that I liked the most were the moments that were the most like that, where like I know exactly what this song is, and I know it's not trying to be anything else. Like, there were a lot of moments where I'm like, are they trying to like flex creative muscles here? Are they trying to like stretch and do stuff that they're not well known for, in the same vein that like a progressive rock band would do that? You know, like Dream Theater's Octavarium came to mind of like, hey guys, can we write a song that's not 25 minutes long and that has like a real like mellow, like it doesn't modulate, change keys, we don't have any crazy mixed meter stuff, no goofy instrumental bits, like let's have like a nice strumming acoustic guitar and do something that can be easily passed off as a Coldplay or a U2 song. Can we do that? And I would argue that Dream Theater did that with many songs on that record and succeeded, and kind of blew a lot of people away. Like, wow, they could write really simple stuff and they could do it really well. I did not get that with this. Like, a lot of like the slower kind of like singer-songwritery kind of stuff, you know, like acoustic guitar strumming is like my kryptonite. I'm not big on it. I said that last week and I'll say it this week. You know, like the early on, the ballad track, I Don't Want to Cry No More, was another eye roll for me. Like, oh, here's like this like kind of crappy like 90s Guns N' Roses, like this band that like washed up already and like the fire has already died, and I don't like this at all.
I will agree with that. Yeah.
Opening track was kind of what I sort of would have expected from Helloween, but it didn't quite go as much in the power metal direction as I was expecting. It had like basically all the stuff I like about the Helloween that I do like, you know. Guitar soloing is great. Michael Kiske is awesome. The drumming is great. The riffs are super tight, and it delivers. Like, at the end of the day, like I'll sell it as like it's a great rock metal song, but it's not like, it wasn't like this thing that like really made me like go ooh, you know. It didn't do that for me. When the Sinner, I actually don't remember that one. Crazy Cat, I do remember. That one was one of my favorites, and it had like and I could see where like they're trying to do this whole like big band swing thing, as going back to that quote. it's definitely not big band swing, but there's like all these little brass sections. It's kind of like this funk fusion, sort of like real riffy, like real aggressive and like real kind of silly, but once again, it knows what it is and it delivers on what it is. And I really like that song. I thought the riffs in that were great. The bass lines were awesome. It was really, really cool. It was something different than what I heard on the album to that point so far. Giants was a little more like, this is kind of like first time. It was like, all right, here's like a solid rock track that they can do, but not the most amazing, impressive Helloween that I've ever heard. Now, granted, I haven't heard an extensive amount of their discography, but I've been assigned them before, and comparing what I heard before to this, it like you said, it doesn't even sound like the same band.
Yeah.
And I much prefer the former. Windmill, right in the middle of the album, I absolutely hated that track. I had to force myself to finish listening to it. It was torture. It really tortured me to listen to that, where I really wanted to skip it. Just, like real, like crappy piano playing, like real, like not even like it's one of those, like I don't even know how to describe why I don't like it, but like there's like Rick Wakeman, like kind of fiddling on a piano over like a simple chord progression kind of thing, but like playing like cool, tasteful little things and like kind of playing and like making this big sound, even like looking at like Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater, like he could do like real simple like piano jams that are real basic, but he like delivers them in such a way that they're big and they're powerful. He plays with a lot of 2-octave technique in his piano playing, and it makes for like this real, like this just sounds like a beginner, like a student, like that just learned like, oh, you could just play like any note of the scale over this progression and it'll work. And a lot of it didn't work for me. It was in the key of C. I hate the key of C. Again, as a prog rock, like art rock kind of guy, because of how simple it is and just how basic everything sounds in C. I really don't like the key. I didn't like any of the chord progressions. I didn't like any of the vocal lines in it. I just thought it was just this super like dry, like chewing on sawdust and cardboard, just boring, dull, dry, dead, awful, awful, awful. I hated it. I got physically nauseous from listening to that. I wanted to barf. I hated Windmill. I will never listen to that song again. But then you get Revolution Now, which is the exact opposite. This like real cool heavy, like it had almost like this Red Hot Chili Peppers-esque bass line in it that I really dug, and it grabbed my attention right away, mainly just for being a palate cleanser after suffering through Windmill. I'm like, all right, this one, all right. And then as the song went on, it's a pretty long track. It's like 8 minutes.
It's like 8 minutes.
Yeah. And I was like, and I remember being like 2-3 minutes in, like if the rest of the song is just this, I'm okay with that. And it was. And I liked it. It got heavier. That chorus hook where he just sings Revolution Now, and it's real simple, just 3 steps down the scale. He harmonizes it really, really nicely. The vocals are awesome. I love it. And it's one of the, like, it's so simple and it's so effective. And it's a song that knows what it is, and it doubles down and delivers on that. And that was a highlight for me. That's probably my favorite track. No, it's definitely my favorite track. Music I also liked. Again, kind of in the same vein of Giants and First Time, and it knows what it is. It's a cool, heavy track. Step Out of Hell.
Kind of bluesy. Song.
Music was bluesy. I remember giving that one a like. I Believe was another one I liked. That was another like long one, but it took me on a couple of turns, and I enjoyed it. Again, for me, like the best moments on this album for me were really nothing to write home about, but it was at least good music, as according to my tastes, and then Longing I just listened to like right before we started filming tonight, and it was for me it was a kind of sweet, satisfying way to end the album, and nothing more. It was like, all right, that's it, now it's over. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's these guys trying to like purposefully break the mold of their style, and like maybe we can write something like real simple. Maybe we could write something like super, super heavy. Maybe, I don't know what the thought process going into it was, but I could see why this album is viewed the way it is by the fandom of like, it rejected by the band's core audience as not even being a true Helloween album at all. I could see that. I mean, it's a little harsh, but I could see, especially with songs like Windmill.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, and most people will just say, you know, right down with it.
Yeah, the whole thing is that's doing it a disservice though, because then you write off tracks like Revolution Now as like this isn't Helloween, and that's not true. So there are some gems I would say on it, but
I personally my thing with this, well, what I think as far as thought process go, I mean, I don't know the guy, so I'm not sure, but this was released in 1993 when the whole world was like really, really enjoying all the grunge and stuff, and like metal, like even Iron Maiden type metal and power metal like Helloween had no place, you know. So yeah, it probably was these guys saying, "Oh, we need to branch out and try different things."
Afloat, probably.
You know, some of it may work, some of it may not work, but I like it because of at least they're giving it a shot, I guess.
Yeah, there's at least the novelty of them doing stuff that they're not well known for. So
the songs that you mentioned that you don't like I Don't Want to Cry No More and Windmill, they're the ones, they're especially those two are the ones I usually do skip when I listen to this album. But like First Time, When the Sinner, I absolutely love that song, especially the end. There's like an oboe solo or something in the end of it.
Oh yeah, that like soprano sax thing.
Yeah, there's a sax solo or something. It's kind of good stuff. It's not a power metal song at all.
No,
to me, it's different enough to me, it's different enough that I do like it. As far as like their heavier songs, I Believe is probably my favorite song on the album. Lyrically, vocally, musically, I think that song, and because you said it took you on a little ride, which it does. There's a couple changes in the song, so it's not like straight. I
remember really liking that one too. I like the chorus for that one a lot.
Yeah,
again, you can't.
That one I like. There is a lot to like for me. There is a lot to like on this album, but yeah, I could see how people coming in expecting Keeper of the Seven Keys type of music are going to be like, this is not it.
I knew it wasn't going to be that, but I was hoping for a little more of some stuff like that, and I really got little to none of it, and that was a disappointment. But
yeah, well, you know, like I never know. That's the nice thing about giving each other music like this. I never know how you're going to come back. I didn't think you were going to like Sabotage Edge of Thorns at all, you know, but I figure, you know, let's see, you know, I thought you were going to like that Nevermore album more than you did, you know, like you liked it musically, but vocally you're like, oh, you know, but it's like, you know, it's weird because like, you know, you never know what's going to hit you. But with this album, I think also a lot of it with this album, I think it was probably just my mindset in 1993. And, you know, like, I don't know where I was in life. Maybe I see this album through rose-colored glasses.
Maybe because it reminds sentimental value to you too.
It does. It really does. It really, really does for various reasons that I won't even get into because they're boring reasons and stuff. But I go back. It's just like one of those albums that you go back to when you listen to it, and you automatically are back.
You go back to that headspace from.
Yeah, you go back to that headspace. Yeah. Good, bad, whatever, you know. But yeah, when I do listen to this album, I do tend to listen to Giants, Revolution Now, Step Out of Hell, I Believe. Longing, like you said, ends the album. I like that song for what it is. It's a very simple guitar vocal thing. And I like it though, not because of the music in it, because the music's pretty simple. The vocal performance by Michael Kiske on that song, that's what I like about that song, because it's very emotional. It's very dramatic even. And the dude still has a great voice. And that's one thing I could say about this that I don't think anyone could, you know, argue with, is vocally it's top notch through this whole album. Even the songs that you don't like, well, maybe not Windmill. So
yeah, his singing is consistent across the board. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm looking at who wrote what.
It doesn't sound like him on Windmill. I think, like, I was sitting there seriously thinking, is this a different singer? Yeah. If it's him,
that's him.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's just for me.
I'm looking at who wrote what on this album. It's actually pretty surprising, you know, that like some of the softer stuff he had nothing to do with. And like, you know, when he went, like after this album, he did his first solo album, and a lot of it you know, after that, he went very soft. You know, he went like, there's an album that he has that pretty much is Windmill over and over again. Not the first one, though. The first one still, there's a lot of heavy, because that's the one he did with Adrian Smith and Kai Hansen. So the first one has just as many, like I'd say probably just as many like metal moments as this album does. But it's not for everybody, but I figure, you know what? You need to hear it anyway. So
well, I know it's one that you mentioned a couple times, and I was looking forward to listening to it, and I'm glad I did. You know, taking it for what it is and taking the moments of it that I really did like. So
yeah. But no, I could totally understand where you're going with.
I would say you definitely should listen to the whole thing once. If you're like a music fan, a metalhead, or anything like that, if you haven't heard it, definitely listen to it, because you might like it more than I do. You might like it as much as Jeff does, especially, you know, if you were around more like 1993, I was still in diapers. So who the hell knows? But, you know, if you're of a slightly older generation, it might have a lot more meaning to you too. So I give it a thumbs up in that you have to listen to it once. It's like, it feels like one of those, like, kind of like a requirement, you know, like every Helloween fan should listen to it if you haven't. And then at least if you think it totally sucks and you want to write it off as like, this isn't a true authentic, at least if you listen to it, you could say that, and then you could throw it out and you could burn it and you can never listen to it again. That's fine. I know I'll never revisit it, except maybe one or two of those tracks that I really, really liked. It's like, oh yeah, I want to hear those again. But yeah, I definitely won't revisit it. I'm looking forward, as far as exploring Helloween goes, I'd like to go back a little further and check out some more of their like real proper power metal stuff, because that stuff I really dig.
So, well, I'll tell you what, man, I gave you everything by Helloween that has Kiski on it. Oh, except for one album, Pink Bubbles Go Ape, which is the one before Chameleon, which some people say it's even worse.
Yeah, we talked about that one, and it didn't really seem that interesting to me. But
you know, I don't like it as much, but it's more of a metal album than Chameleon is. It's just, I like it for what it is, you know. But it's not like Keeper and Seven Keys Part 1 and 2. Those are that was like the template for power metal. That was the template for Helloween. Now, if you want to go somewhere else with Helloween, check out the album they released after this, which was Master of the Rings, with their new singer Andy Darris. That goes back to a more heavier Helloween, a more straightforward, but there's a lot of good songs on that one. That one I really like also. Like, I was like, you know, again, this is 1994. This is pre-internet. I ordered Master of the Rings from in the back of a metal magazine. I probably paid like $50 for it in 1994 because I thought this was the next thing that, you know, Helloween released. I paid $30 for the cassette tape of Chameleon, you know, because I had to come in through import. It wasn't even available in the United States. So it's like, okay, well, let's see what Master of the Rings is. And I got it, and I opened it up, and I'm like, and I listened to it. I'm like, oh my God, this isn't Michael Kiske singing. This is some other dude. So I was like, I tried to find out what happened. And back in '94 was kind of hard to do. Yeah, but so at first I was like, I don't know if I like this album, but then I got to like it. You know, I got used to Andy Darris is a way different singer. But Master of the Rings, and then he stayed with them. You know, he's still with them now. They're, you know, their new album is going to have all the singers that have ever been in Helloween coming out and singing. So,
yeah, which I'm excited about. That's going to be great. I know we talked about
that too. Yeah, I've heard a couple songs off of that album secretly. They were leaked, so I had to listen to them. And they sound more like a modern version of Keeper Part 2. Like that heavy power metal stuff, like the song that we heard, that Skyfall. It's in that vein, yeah. So,
which if the whole album is that, I'll buy it. That sounds great. Sign me up.
If I have to say one track that, you know, that's everyone should listen to from Chameleon, just to hear the vocal performance of Michael Kiske in a metal song, is the song I Believe. Just the way he sings that, the power behind his voice. That's a song I could recommend to anybody who likes metal. And it's probably one of the most metal songs on the album. So
yeah, definitely one of the highlights for me.
Well, I will try to get something that you will like next week. We're gonna have to see. I'm gonna have to
just give me whatever. I really don't care. I'll keep an open mind. I'll listen to anything you throw at me.
Yeah,
So,
well, you know, the nice thing about it is I never know. I never know. And so it always ends up being an interesting conversation. The way you look at something, the way I look at something. And again, this may be, you know, you took a listen to it. You have nothing attached to it. I have all these memories attached to this album. You know,
yeah, for me,
I wore out
the first time today. I just heard it all.
Yeah,
Brand new.
I wore out the cassette tape. You know, I actually had to tape the cassette tape back together because I wasn't going to pay $30 for it again. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. That's funny.
So there you go. There's our album reviews for the week. Remember, of course, like always, go on to Facebook, Rock Talk with the Doc Rocker, Facebook group, join it and talk to us. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, ring that bell, hit the subscribe button, and subscribe to us on YouTube for more Rock Talk with the Doc Rocker.
Watch our other stuff.
Yes.
We got lots of stuff now. Watch it.